It is Wednesday, my dudes, and you know what that means. That is right. We are once again back in Velocity Lake, and I start once again by saying it's been a short hiatus since the last episode. Obviously, the episode before this one, there'd been a bit of a break in episodes for Christmas break and all that, and then I just did a 2-part Minecraft Let's Play for like the previous 2 weeks. So it's been a somewhat broken up series, is Velocity Lake. There has been a good reason for this. I've been hard at work on creating more stuff for the park and building up footage and getting the editing together. Planet Coaster doesn't take as long to make as my Kerbal Space Program videos, but there's a lot more faffing around with them because you can't just sit down and do the footage for one video. You just got to sit down for many hours and then figure out how that goes up into it. At least this is my process. I admit that more competent Planet Coaster content creators are better at it than I am and can do that, but this is the system that works for me, and I don't really feel like changing it now. As you can see, we begin this episode completing the work that we did last time, which was obviously the placing of this Ferris wheel. I decided to get rid of these stock fences, neaten it up a little bit, get some sort of, cohesion between the path fences and the ride fences, but that's it. Now we get on to the main part of this video, which is this area around the RMC coaster. It's a bit messy, bit rubbish, really, to be honest. The Planet Coaster paths, you end up with these massive holes in them, and you can't really make good plazas. We're going to try and change that this episode. So we're going to place a couple of flat rides, make a little shopping plaza in this big space here. I'm pretty proud of how it turns out. I hope you guys think it looks good as well. I think this is one of the better parts of the park, and we begin the foundation work for that area today. That's what we're doing in this episode. So the first thing I was doing here, I was trying to solve the old riddle of how to cover up these holes in the path. I tried a couple of different solutions. I do like sometimes using the temple pieces offset way into the ground and to kind of make sort of, path features, really. I mean, you often get that in real life, don't you? Where you have, different tones of paving and stuff, or little patterns in the paving. Thought that could work. In the end, I decided no. I have done that technique in other areas of the park, but I decided, you know what? It's kind of a lost cause. Let's try and build this path again, but with the mindset of I need to actually cover up the holes. I'm not just going to create holes and then worry about it later. We need to try and think of a plan as we go along. So I'll try and put the holes, obviously we can't avoid them, but try and put them in such a way that we could have a nice sort of uniform covering, if that makes sense. I hope it does. If it doesn't, it will hopefully make more and more sense as the video goes on. But it might not. Who knows? As you know, these videos are not scripted, and I can seldom recollect exactly what I was doing during the time of recording. So this is a journey for me as much as it is for you guys as well. So I've kind of got the basic layout done. I was kind of happy with the girth of that pathway, so I thought let's just place some flat rides to kind of serve as peripheral markings. Again, Planet Coaster paths are not very good at square shapes, so by placing round flat rides, we can kind of use the limitations of the path tool to our advantage. Path tool can only really do curvy things, so if we do like a nice sort of flowy path structure around it, I have no idea actually, but this is what I'm doing here. I thought it'd be kind of cool to have a little shopping plaza flanked by these 2 flat rides here. I don't think I've ever built them before. If I have, it would have probably been in my mini-series Mistletoe Peak, where we just built a Christmas park. And speaking of Mistletoe Peak, this is kind of sad. I wanted to make a follow-up this year over Christmas and make another park, and I actually got really far into it. It was going to be a one-ride park. It was just going to be a mountain train roller coaster, and it was going to be themed around Christmas. It was going to be the Santa Express, and it would go between 2 mountains. It was basically like Expedition Everest on steroids, and I got really far. I got about 10 hours worth of footage so far, but then the Sony ATV and Werner Chappell copyright strikes happened, and then most of my time had to be spent doing lots of Kerbal work to get those things sorted. Literally, I had to spend so much time that eventually it got to the point where I was finally over, and I'm like, I just don't have enough time now to finish this park before Christmas. So maybe I'll make it maybe I'll just release the footage as like a bonus episode if I ever get to the point like I did, a few weeks ago where I was running out of Planet Coaster footage for Velocity Lake. Maybe I'll do a mini episode where I just do kind of a summary of how far I got with the mountain train. But it would be kind of bittersweet, I think, because the footage never actually leads to a final product. It's just here we have a half-finished roller coaster, and then it just sort of ends. So I don't know, but that was kind of a sad moment there. I don't know why I'm bringing it up, but that was just something I was going to do in Planet Coaster over Christmas. That's another reason why there was no Planet Coaster content over Christmas. It was not for lack of trying. It's because I wanted to do a nice Christmas-themed episode or a string of episodes, a bit like Mistletoe Peak. Sadly, corporations decided nah to that. So here we are, building a toilet block, which won't be here for very long. It looks awful. A lot of what I do in Planet Coaster, I don't really think about it, which I now admit is not a good strategy, but I tend to just build things and just as a rough structure and see how it turns out. And in this case, I did not like how it turned out. Instead, I'm going to just extend the plaza upwards a little bit, kind of by making these sort of loops with the past and then trying to join them up and get rid of as many holes as possible, and then I'll just pave over the entire thing using the pavement pieces from the scenery tab, and we'll kind of build some shops around that little end nub there. And that would also serve as kind of a nice gateway to the backstage of the 2 flat rides, although I never actually integrated the backstage corridor, but it is there. The space is there, I should say, should we ever want to do that. Speaking of not having enough time to make videos, actually, I'm no longer really that worried about Planet Coaster. At most, it'll be an issue of what I try and do is I try and make loads and loads of videos at once. So I have 6 weeks worth of videos just done, and then I can just take my time and make sure I'm not rushing. And then I have crunch periods like this where I have nothing and I've got to make 5 episodes in one day. But I'm pretty sure I can create enough Planet Coaster videos now to have a continuous 1-week upload cycle for the foreseeable future. However, with Kerbal Space Program, obviously that demands a lot more of my free time, and obviously, it gets the most views, so it makes sense that I dedicate more of my time to Kerbal Space Program videos, because I guess that's what the main viewer base of my channel prefers. But, like I say, it takes up more of my time, and I have to sit down a few days a week, plan out the video, do it, and just make it week on week on week. I am about to have major renovations done on my house. I may have said this already in a Planet Coaster video before, but as I said, the series has been a bit disjointed, a bit broken up. Hopefully it's been long enough ago, if I did mention it, that it's already been forgotten. Because, forgettable is how I would probably describe this series. I want to get a new kitchen done. I bought this house that I'm currently sitting and recording this commentary. Kind of an unnecessary detail there. And I bought it on the cheap. It's a bit of a project. It was clearly done for not very much money a long time ago and then never touched since. So a lot of things are falling apart. For example, the fuse box is not up to code for anything in this decade. In fact, this millennium, probably. Same goes for the kitchen. It's clearly done on the cheap in what looks like the 80s, like that kind of tacky aesthetic. It's not very good. However, the kitchen is I think back in day when this house was built, which would have been the Victorian era, I guess, there was a sort of galley kitchen, a very narrow kitchen and a big dining room, because that's, was a big thing back in the day. And these days, people just tend to have open plan kitchens and stuff. And I noticed that the galley kitchen and the dining room, there's no wall. Well, there is a wall, I shouldn't have said, but there's no load-bearing wall between them. So I'm like, why don't we just knock down this wall, and then where that wall was, put a breakfast bar in and have a big, nice, open plan, modern kitchen. So that's what I'm going to do. And I've had the builder come round, have a look at it. Turns out he likes YouTube and saw my silver plaque on the wall and was very, very interested in it. And then he said, he's a kitchen builder and he's also a PC builder. So naturally I had to show him, the rig here. So, hopefully he's not watching this video. If you are, here you go. I'll give you a shout out if you give me a 50% discount in a Planet Coaster video. There you are. I won't say the name in case you just but yeah, so that's going to be a big thing. It's going to be done hopefully before the end of March. I hope. I'm now. But like I say, during this period, I'm going to be without a kitchen. The house is going to be a perpetual building site. Like I say, the fuse box of the house is not up to standard at all. So that's going to need gutting. There's going to be a lot of rewiring work, which means the electrical supply to the house is naturally going to be somewhat compromised. So I don't know how disruptive it's going to be and for how long. And I say there's going to be construction work for the kitchen. It's going to be throughout the house. A lot of things, I've got quite a small bathroom and the boiler for the house is currently in the bathroom and it's taking up quite a lot of the space when the kitchen is quite big. We can move the boiler downstairs, but that's a big thing in and of itself. So there's a lot of just general building work taking place around the house. And I don't know how that's going to affect my ability to make videos. So there may be a slight sort of lag in Kerbal content. Like I say, I'm hoping Planet Coaster won't have a similar delay, but I can't promise anything. By the way, we finished building the shops. What a great... I don't think I've ever used these diner pieces before, or at least not to this extent. I really like them because they're a bit like the temple pieces in a way, where they can be manipulated using the advanced move tool and not necessarily just placed at right angles relative to each other, which is my biggest gripe with Planet Coaster's builder, is that walls and stuff, you're very restricted. Like, it'd be nice if you could even just toggle between 90 degrees and 45 degrees rather than just being able to build boxes. But, you know, I feel like at this point I've kind of figured out its quirks. I really hope they make a Planet Coaster 2. I say this every episode, so I don't know what that says about how I feel about this game. I do really like Planet Coaster, but if I had made a Planet Coaster 2, this is what I would do. Like I always said I'd be more hyped for a Planet Coaster 2 than a Kerbal Space Program 2, just because there's far less stuff that I would want changing in Kerbal Space Program. Like, the things they're doing make sense, you know. It's mostly just getting around the restrictions of the core of the original Kerbal Space Program, in that it can't support more than one star system. It can't really handle multiplayer in its current configuration. You know, that sort of more quality of life. Actually, no, not quality of life stuff. Just general, you know, core, you know, engine. I don't really know anything about programming, so forgive me. But, you know, I hope you guys follow what I mean. Whereas Planet Coaster, there's a lot of quality of life stuff where I'm like, it'd be nice if we could do this. It'd be nice if we could make transfer tracks and stuff. Or, you know, they allow people to mod it a bit more freely. Like, I know we've got Theme Maker's Toolkit, but maybe having full mod support would be cool. Although I probably wouldn't use them because I have this dumb mantra with my channel that everything has to be completely stock and vanilla. And I say it with KSP as well. People always ask me to make KSP videos using mods. Or at least, you know, play KSP with mods installed. Like, I don't know, different parts and things like that. And the reason why I've always avoided that is because I remember back when I was learning, like, I feel like a lot of people use my videos as a means to learn how to get better at the game, as a sort of quasi-tutorial. And I remember back in the day watching people like, I don't know, Scott Manley, and there are probably others like the Winter Owl and people like that, where I was trying to get better at the games. I was looking at gameplay, and at the time Scott was well into doing his series Interstellar Quest, which was very, very heavily modded, and I found it really hard to sort of follow along because I was trying to learn the basics of the game, and it was so modded that it was barely even Kerbal Space Program that I knew of at that point. And like I said, I really want to make my videos as accessible as possible. And I feel like there is an argument to be made that I have now made such a big back catalogue that if people aren't following, I have enough videos to serve, you know, their need for a stock gameplay, which I guess is where Scott was at when he was doing his Interstellar Quest series. But nonetheless, I always like the fact that my videos have that level of accessibility, especially for console players. Like, I always get a lot of comments from people who play on console. So I know the three of them are out there. Actually, I've got Kerbal Space Program on console as well, although I was just given it by the devs, and I haven't really played it since I got it. I kept promising I'd make a video. I bought a capture card for it and everything, and then I didn't make a video because I can't think of a good way of presenting the console gameplay, but I'll think of something eventually, and then we might do some console KSP. Anyway, this was a bit of a side topic. Hey, speaking of console, by the way, delving further down into this side topic, Planet Coaster's been announced for console, which I find odd because it's not that I'm against... I don't know. It's like when you're an Xbox player, it's not great. It's not a very good attitude to relish in the fact that you have exclusives that PlayStation players don't have. I hate that about console wars. Like, haha, we've got this exclusive and you don't. I feel like it's a bit different for PC. I feel like there are some PC games that really should stay as PC exclusive, not just because of some PC Master Race whatever thing, but because of the control scheme. Like, I can't imagine playing Planet Coaster on a controller. I don't really see how the controls would work. Either way, I feel like it would be a massive downgrade. I feel like it's one of those things that if it came to console players wouldn't like it, and then if they eventually upgraded to PC, that's a slightly backhanded comment there. If they upgraded to PC, they would probably avoid future installments because they just have that poor experience on console. So I'm not sure if I can really get on board with it being on console. But who knows? Maybe they'll have figured out a really good control scheme. I know the PlayStation, at least, has the little trackpad, which serves as a sort of pseudo mouse, so that might make things a little bit easier. But I don't know. I'm remaining quite skeptical in terms of Planet Coaster on console. And obviously, you know, I've got a pretty powerful rig, and Planet Coaster can chug on that. So I'm not sure how my poor PS4 Pro would handle it, much less a non-pro console. Anyway, here is we're doing a little real-time piece of footage now just to show you kind of what we've got. I hope you agree. I'm pretty proud of how this sort of turned out. It's a major upgrade over the plaza we had before, and obviously we could just pan around and see what the roller coaster in the background looks like from this plaza, from like the height of a guest. I guess, you know, from two guests still on top of each other realistically from this height. You can see the train whoosh on by, and we can have a little wander around. I've never really shown a ground view real-time portion. I think I did actually last episode. I think a couple of episodes ago. Was it last episode or the episode before when I did a walk around the park? So I guess this is not accurate information. But hey, we'll do it again. We've done all the building, by the way, for this episode. So if you wanted to click off now, you can. Who's not going to build anything else. I'm just doing a quick sort of walk around showing you this sort of area we have so far. So this is the RMC station with a little luggage. Oh, slightly clipped into the maintenance shed just there. And then we can wander back down and we can see we've got a nice view of that cafe. It's kind of got a sort of a Johnny Rocket sort of vibe to it, you know, the 50s American diner style of building. So there you go. So obviously there is still a lot of work to be done. It'd be nice to have some seating around the shops, as well as fencing and things like that around the flat rides. But we're at about the 15-minute mark, which is generally what I feel is a good length of episode for Planet Coaster videos. So we're going to leave it there. And then next episode we'll talk about, well, we won't just talk about it. We will do it. Building all the fences, finishing the seating, and just tidying things up. That's going to be the plan for next episode, I think. Anyway, on screen, as you've probably noticed, there are some links. On the left-hand side is a link to the full Velocity Lake playlist, and on the right-hand side is just a video chosen for you by YouTube's algorithm. That is, I've said my piece, so the video is over. Farewell, and goodbye.